Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the origins of anime, and more importantly, the singular, absolute genius who built its foundation from the ground up. If you've ever watched Japanese animation and thought, how did this totally distinct, globally dominant art form actually come to be? Well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it.
To kick things off, I want to throw a pretty fascinating question your way. How exactly did a medical student, a guy with a profound love for bugs and Walt Disney, manage to create a global animation empire? I mean, it literally sounds like the setup to some bizarre fictional story, right? But it's entirely real. Today, we're looking at the historical forces that shaped anime and the man who single-handedly engineered the medium we know and love today.
Okay, so let's dive in by clearing up a really common misconception right off the bat. Anime isn't actually a single genre. I know, shocker. In Japan, anime is just the catch-all term for animation of literally any kind. It's only outside of Japan that we use the word specifically to mean Japanese animation. So really, it's a medium, not a genre, which means it can be used to tell absolutely any kind of story you can imagine.
And you can really see the boundless variety of this medium when you look at how it's structured. You've got distinct demographics, like shonen targeting young boys, shoujo for young girls, and seinen for adult men. And then you pair those with these sprawling, wildly creative genres. We're talking everything from giant mecha robot battles to isetai, where heroes get transported to completely different worlds, all the way down to slice-of-life stories about daily routines. There's an anime for absolutely everyone. But how did it actually get so diverse?
Well, crucially, this whole art form was born out of strict financial and geographic necessity. You see, early Japanese filmmakers just didn't have the massive budgets, or the diverse casts for that matter, needed to shoot global, sweeping historical epics. If they wanted to tell a story set in ancient Rome or medieval Europe, they were incredibly constrained. So what was the solution? Animation. It became this ultimate creative workaround. An animator could draw absolutely any location, any era, or any character imaginable, completely bypassing the need for a Hollywood-sized budget.
Section 1. Enter the Godfather.
Meet Osamu Tezuka. Born into a prosperous medical family back in 1928, this man would eventually become globally revered as the Godfather, or simply the God of Manga. Seriously, if you enjoy any form of modern manga or anime today, you owe a massive, direct debt of gratitude to this guy's relentless imagination.
What's really fascinating is how his iconic aesthetic actually came together. It was essentially this perfect storm of unique childhood influences. First off, he was a massive cinephile. He famously watched Walt Disney's Bambi more than 80 times. 80! He then fused that intense Disney obsession with the theatrical Takarazuka Revue. That was an all-female musical theater troupe his mom frequently took him to, and those actresses directly inspired the massive, sparkling eyes that became the absolute signature anime look. Add in the influence of an early Chinese animated film called Princess Iron Fan, and Tezuka basically built a visual vocabulary unlike anything else out there at the time.
And his output? Staggering. He went from being drafted to work in a wartime factory as a teenager straight into medical school at Osaka University in 1945. Yet somehow, while studying medicine, he managed to publish his breakout hit, New Treasure Island, in 1947, which completely sparked the golden age of manga. By 1952, he debuted his most famous creation, Astro Boy. The pace at which this man worked was just unprecedented. Now, he actually did earn his medical degree, which is an incredible feat all on its own. But when he found himself torn between a very respectable, secure career as a doctor and the totally uncertain life of a manga artist, he turned to his mother for advice, and she gave him this beautifully simple, life-changing push. She said, "You should work doing the thing you like most of all." Because of her, he chose drawing. And, well, world culture was forever changed.
Section 2. The Astro Boy Revolution.
You are going to be amazed to learn where the thematic core of Astro Boy actually came from. The whole concept for Astro Boy's interactions with outsiders, it was born right after Tezuka was literally punched in the face by a frustrated American GI at a hospital. But rather than just getting angry, Tezuka took that visceral, painful experience of a culture clash and channeled it into a science fiction narrative. It directly inspired Astro Boy's overarching theme of human-alien interaction and this deep, ongoing quest for mutual understanding.
So, to bring Astro Boy to television in 1963, Tezuka founded his own studio, Mushi Production. But TV animation was incredibly expensive back then. To actually get the show on the air, he aggressively undercut his competitors, slashing the budget to an unbelievably low 2.5 million yen per episode. That was just a fraction of the actual cost, meaning his brand new studio was deeply in the red right from day one. He literally had to figure out how to make animation cheaper and faster on the fly.
To survive on that tiny budget, Tezuka refined this brilliant cost-saving playbook of limited animation shortcuts. They'd shoot on threes, meaning fewer distinct drawings per second. They use static stop images, and they repeat animation cycles, like having a character run endlessly against a scrolling background. But crucially, and this was a massive game changer, he heavily utilized rich, over-the-top sound effects to completely mask the lack of physical movement on screen. These ingenious little shortcuts made weekly TV anime financially viable for the very first time.
This affordable model led to a huge milestone. Astro Boy became the first Japanese animation to hit US television, sold right to NBC Enterprises. However, NBC forced some pretty strict censorship on the show. They made Tezuka scrub all visual references to Japan, totally removed Japanese street signs, and banned any religious or mature themes just to create this vague sense of placelessness. It was definitely a compromise, but hey, it got his foot firmly in the global door.
Section 3. The Darker Evolution.
By the late 60s, the manga landscape was really shifting. Older readers were growing up, and they wanted more. So, in response to this rising Gekiga movement, Tezuka fiercely pivoted his art style. He moved away from his cartoony, Disney-esque slapstick roots and started crafting these highly literary, adult-oriented graphic novels. We're talking darker themes, deep moral ambiguity, explicit violence, and complex psychological thrillers. He even started using his actual medical knowledge to create characters like the iconic, unlicensed rogue surgeon Blackjack.
He also showed an absolute mastery of the medium through something he called the star system. Since he was such a massive film buff, he treated his ink and paper creations exactly like live-action Hollywood celebrities. He would essentially cast his drawn characters in entirely different roles across his vast universe of stories. A villain in one manga might suddenly show up as a crooky sidekick in a sci-fi thriller the next week. It allowed for this incredible intertextual commentary, and it really proved that, to Tezuka, manga was every bit as grand and important as the silver screen.
Section 4. An Unmatched Legacy.
Looking back, Tezuka's lifelong output is almost difficult to comprehend. Over his lifetime, the man drew a staggering 150,000 pages of manga across more than 700 volumes. He created his epic, lifelong, and ultimately unfinished masterpiece Phoenix, which tackled massive themes like reincarnation and cosmic life. And his influence was so vast, it reached everyone from Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto and Studio Ghibli's Hayao Miyazaki, all the way to film director Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick actually invited Tezuka to be the art director for 2001, A Space Odyssey. Obviously, Tezuka had to decline because of his insane schedule, but no way, right? It just goes to show the true global reach of his genius.
Tragically, stomach cancer took his life in 1989 when he was just 60 years old. But even in his hospital bed, he was still drawing. His heartbreaking final words to a nurse who was trying to take away his drawing equipment were simply, "I'm begging you, let me work." It perfectly, yet so tragically, encapsulates his relentless, lifelong dedication to his craft. He quite literally gave everything he had to the blank page.
So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Recently, AI technology has actually been used to generate new manga in his exact, highly distinct style. But it really begs the question, what unwritten, purely human masterpieces did the god of manga take with him? And as this technology evolves, how will those brilliant, cost-saving techniques he invented all those decades ago continue to shape the limitless future of anime? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible world of animation.